Rapid Response 47 Press Secretary, Antifa is a violent radical left terrorist organization. That's why President Trump will imminently sign an executive order officially designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization as soon as today. I've heard a lot of pushback about this, that it's never going to hold up in a court of law because it's going to fall under free speech. So I wouldn't get your hopes up too high with regard to this actually standing. However, now Andy Ngo, he's like the foremost expert when it comes to Antifa affairs. He's a journalist, and he's on X every day. He's got his own website. He's doing his own thing. He's written books about this, and he suggests and I thought of this before I even heard him talking about it, although I'm sure he's been saying this for years, but President Trump should be designating Antifa as an international terrorist organization, because Antifa did not start in the United States. It got its start in Germany in 1932. The far left radicals that were pushing back against the Nazi Party in Germany back in the early 30s. And from then they branched out, later on in the 20th century. I think they first got their foothold here in the US in the late 1980s. But they're in multiple different countries. The Netherlands, they've already declared them as a terrorist organization right after Trump said that he was going to designate them. There was one other country. I can't remember what the other one was. There's one other country that also just the other day designated them as a terrorist organization. But that's what they should be doing. They should designate them as an international terrorist organization, because they don't have roots here. They've got the roots back in Germany. Plus, especially if you can arrest a member of Antifa and you can connect them with some website, some communications or forums or anything like that with other Antifa cells outside of the U.S., well, there you go. Now you can get them as an active international terrorist organization. So not so sure if they're going to go that way with it. I would really hope that they would at least try to pursue that as being an international terrorist organization, but let's see what she said.
Antifa is going to be designated a domestic terrorist organization. The president intends to sign that executive order very soon, as soon as it's drafted, as soon as today, later this afternoon. And this is something the president campaigned on, because we have seen a rise in violence perpetuated by Antifa radical people across this country.
Yeah, can you point to one single instance where Antifa organizes and shows up and not a single crime is committed? Because they're going to hide behind the First Amendment, saying that they're peaceably assembling, that we're peacefully protesting. Antifa, like, nobody's got any footage of Antifa standing there for I don't know, even longer than like fucking 5 minutes without inciting some sort of violence or rioting.
Subscribe to this group.
That's what they do. They show up and they riot.
It's gone widely uncovered
they
by many in the
legacy
media. It also went completely ignored by the previous administration.
They like to walk with umbrellas during sunny days.
Not only, as you mentioned, were the bullet casings subscribed with Antifa mottos, if you will, in the heinous assassination of Charlie, but there have also been more examples than I could read off for you here in this briefing room today of violence from Antifa. I will just read a few. In July 2025, several members of an Antifa cell ambushed and opened fire on officers at an ICE facility in Alvarado, Texas, shooting one officer in the neck. Also, in July 2025, 3 Antifa members were charged with assaulting a police officer during a violent riot outside.
Well, look, you'd have to go back a few years, but even Steven Crowder, he had, what was his name? Jared? Not Gay Jared. That was his name. He actually got him to infiltrate himself into a local Antifa cell, and he was talking with a couple of members of Antifa. They weren't dressed up in black at this time. He had some hidden camera on him or whatever. They gave him a knife and said that when we organize, I don't know what it was, like the next day or something, like next time we organize, I want you to bring this knife and stab somebody with it, essentially. It's on, I'm sure it's still on Steven Crowder's channel. He did a whole like 2-3 part series on that where Not Gay Jared like went into Antifa and like they ended up calling the FBI and they ended up arresting the person who gave him the knife and shit. It was fucking crazy.
An ICE facility in Portland,
and that was like 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Had been
that was
under
a long time
siege
ago.
From the local Antifa terror cell. In February 2024, a transgender Antifa terrorist detonated an explosive device outside of the office of the Republican Attorney General of Alabama.
Let out with no bail.
In July 2023, Antifa members linked to abortionist group Jane's Revenge firebombed pro-life facilities and vandalized churches. In January 2022, a
Oh, but that's
suspected
not
Antifa member
terrorism.
was arrested for bringing a pipe bomb to a pro-Trump event. In January 2021, an Antifa supporter threatened to shoot police officers and Trump supporters outside of the Florida State Capitol building. Again, I could continue to list many more examples.
Oh, I'm sure
for
there's
those
probably
in the
hundreds
room
of
who
them.
don't believe this is a serious threat to American safety
But
and our
Antifa's
national
just an
security.
idea.
But this
Right,
administration
Joe
knows
Biden?
that it is. That's why the president will be signing this order. And we will also be, most importantly, looking at who is funding Antifa and who is
That's what they need to
funding
do.
these other violent left-wing groups that we've seen perpetuate so much crime and mayhem across our country.
Yeah, it's probably going to be hard to do, but yeah, that's really what they should get to the bottom of. And I hope that they've been reaching out to Andy Ngo. I mean, this dude knows everything about Antifa. It's crazy the amount of information that he knows. I don't know if he's actively infiltrated in any groups. I highly doubt it, because if there's anybody that Antifa knows, it's Andy Ngo. Like, they know him very, very well because of his reporting on them. Yeah, I hope they do. I hope they can find the money. I'm sure a lot of them, they're just, couch surfing, and they deliberately try to stay as disorganized as they can with no leader, so they won't get designated as a terrorist organization. We'll just have to see. I don't know if you can give enough instances to deem it as such, and if a judge holds up their designation, we'll just have to see what happens.